The Acolyte. Is it as bad as everyone says? I'm going to find out by watching episode 1, so stick around to hear my conclusions. And don't forget to let me know what you think of this episode in the comments. Since this series came out, I have seen nothing but negative press about it, from the millions of condemnations on YouTube, the so-called review bombing, and an utterly disastrous press campaign.
Yes.
A general taunting of the fans,
but in my world, nerds are gay.
and a general misunderstanding of the lore.
You can't look and see that Anakin blowing up the Death Star possibly killed millions and millions of people.
On the whole, I do like the Star Wars franchise, not the prequels. I haven't been hit in the head with a shovel. I loved The Mandalorian, but I wondered if I was just excited to see the Star Wars TV show and got swept up in the hype. I enjoyed the Book of Boba Fett, but to be honest, I can't really remember too much about it. Obi-Wan Kenobi wasn't the best, but I still quite enjoyed it. But then, like many people, I started to get Star Wars fatigue. Was this due to too much content to keep up with, making it feel like homework, as I found with the Marvel franchises? Or was it simply diminishing returns in the quality storytelling, directing and acting? On both accounts, I felt it was the latter.
It's too much.
To get myself into The Acolyte, I decided to do a bit of homework, because that's what we sci-fi fantasy geeks have a terrible habit of doing before we watch the first minute of any show. I began by watching the Star Wars Celebration live, and could not believe a combination of Disney and LucasArts would allow something so amateurish and sparsely thought out.
What do you want? Yes. Yeah, we'll keep it Vegas. Jody,
Don't they prep these people or give them some DVDs to watch before they make grand, embarrassing statements like this?
Star Wars is very like patriarchal, so it was kind of cool to have like this sort of woman-centered figure.
This level of amateurishness would suffice at a convention or a podcast, which gives those platforms their individual charm, but not when $180 million is thrown at it.
Somebody's got some money to burn.
To start off with, the opening bar scene was okay, but I could have done without all the men being taken out so quickly due to being rubbish at fighting, right down to the one idiot who gets his gun stuck in his trousers.
Embarrassing.
Then lo and behold, Master Indara, the first female she fights, is the only one good at fighting. This would-be assassin is no match for Indara, but halfway through the fight, she is a match for Indara. Now, the way Indara dies does not add up. If she was going to stop the knife killing the barman, surely she'd know that's a trap. A Jedi Master is supposed to be intelligent, and surely that's the oldest trick in the book. Surely she'd protect herself by throwing the assassin over the banister or throwing a table at her while stopping the knife. Hell, she could even jumped over the banister herself while stopping the knife. Or she could have said, balls to the barman. Why hasn't he run away like everyone else? It's his fault if he gets killed for rubbernecking.
That's a lot of information.
So in our next scene, the same woman is Osha, who is a mechanic, which is a spaceship engineer. So, a fire in space. Is that a thing? I did some research. Apparently, you can light a match in space, so if there was oxygen coming out from underneath, there could possibly be a fire in space?
You know, if you light a match in the vacuum of space outside the spacecraft, most people think it wouldn't light. However, the head of a match has fuel and oxidizer in the tip of the match, and striking it creates heat, so the tip of a match actually would burn in outer space, but then it would quickly go out because there's no air.
Considering this scene was there for Osha to have a flashback, couldn't the fire just have been inside? There's nothing about having it outside that brought the plot forward, but I like the fact that Pip is also a fire extinguisher. So far, my favourite character is Pip. I like Pip. But I have to say the show looks impressive. They've clearly spent a ton of cash on the scenes. There's something about the Star Wars universe. You could easily sit and watch the bar scenes from Star Wars for an hour and people watch without any plot. So far, I'm finding Amanda Sternberg as Woody McWood from Woodsville.
One wooden mallet.
And then along comes Charlie Barnett as Yord Fandar, who is equally wooden and expressionless. We find out that Osha was once trained as a Jedi and she's been accused of murder, so they stick her on a prison ship. We move to Croissant, where Lee Jung-jae from Squid Game plays a Jedi called Sol. Lee is clearly a great actor, and even though the scene is slow, it's a constant barrage of exposition, and Lee needed months with an English coach, he managed to make what could have been a dull 3 minutes into something tolerable. So we find Osha on the prison ship, where another prisoner discusses a prison break with her out loud so she can shout back without any repercussions.
We're planning an escape.
I applaud everyone's enthusiasm here, but that could kill us.
Now this is where it gets really stupid. They leave the prisoners with technology that can take out the pilot robots and the guy that can easily take out the lone prison robot guard with a slimy tentacle. Do they not check these prisoners before they put them on the ship? Oh, and the chances of surviving a spaceship crash from that distance and at that speed is pretty much zero.
But if you do find yourself in that situation, make sure you put your hands behind your ears, because that will soften the high-impact disaster that is about to happen.
So back on Croissant, the prisoners have been captured and Master Soul uses his Jedi mind trick to get the truth out of the prisoner who betrayed Osha.
She helped me, and I betrayed her and took the last escape pod.
Now, along with his personal experience of Osha and the testimony from the prisoner, he has more faith that she did not murder Master Indara. Finally, someone is using their brain. Not only that, but Soul actually requests to find her himself because Numbnuts the Dork Knight left her on a ship with a completely useless lone prison droid. I had a lot more to say about each scene, and a lot more that I cut out, but on reflection, I decided to stop there. My main reason for doing this was to give a fair and balanced objective review of The Acolyte. However, the quality of the show makes it difficult, and the more I wrote, the more I felt I was just criticising the show, which was not my intention. My main issues with The Acolyte are, there's too many coincidences, some of the acting is wooden, the writing feels like it needed another 10 drafts. Nothing makes me wonder what will happen next. I'm not excited about any of the plot twist. And there's no world building, it's just exposition. On a positive note, it looks great. So my verdict, is it as bad as they say? I would have to say yes, very much so. In fact, I would say it's pretty awful. So awful, I kind of enjoyed it. So I will be watching and reviewing more. So what do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Please leave your comments below. The Acolyte, Episode 2. Are there any positives? Do you have anything positive to say? If so, please leave all your good vibes and loveliness in the comments below. So, after cutting my last review short due to having very little positive to say, I've decided to try and find the positives in Episode 2. First, let's talk about the positives in Episode 1. I liked Lee Jung-jae as Master Soul. It's clear he's a more experienced actor and a better casting choice than most of the motley crew. No, not that motley crew. I liked the show's visuals and I liked Pip, especially when Pip was a fire extinguisher. Here's hoping I like more than that in this episode, otherwise it's going to be a really short video.
Pretty slim pickings.
As mentioned before, Lee is clearly a more experienced and superior actor, and he is a better choice in casting. In the scene when the group walk around the dead body of the Jedi Torbin, they have a conversation which is pretty excruciating to listen to, apart from when Lee speaks his lines. It's a very small light in a discussion of bunkum. I can't explain why, but I unclenched for a few seconds when he spoke. Unfortunately, I feel that Lee's talents are going over the head of most viewers due to him being lost in the quagmire of poor performances.
This master was dead when we arrived.
Also, there were no signs of struggle.
It took this poison willingly.
This is Bunta.
The scene where May gives Torbin the poison was actually a great idea. Unfortunately, it was poorly executed with weak dialogue and poor acting.
You are so negative.
The concept of a Jedi meditating for 10 years to atone for his sins, but being unable to come to grips with what he's done, and then he's given the choice to end his life to end his suffering, is powerful stuff. To think those 10 years were effectively for nothing. Imagine two amazing actors and a better script giving that scene the gravitas it needed. You could have had a Waiting for Godot-esque silences and pathos to create what could have been a truly amazing scene.
Sometimes I feel it coming and then I go all peculiar. how shall I say, I feel relieved, but at the same time, appalled. Appalled.
Now, the fight scene wasn't bad. In fact, out of both episodes, I enjoyed that the most so far. Lee's cool, calm performance makes him perfect for the role of a Jedi Master, and it was great to see him close up doing some of his own stage fighting. Kudos to the fight coordinator for this, as it certainly gave the episode the lift it desperately needed. The opening shot of the forest was also nice. And that's it. I even watched it a second time to see if I missed anything, but that really was it. Turns out this is a short video after all. Did you find anything else in the episode entertaining? Do you agree or disagree with me? Let me know in the comments and I'll be back soon with my thoughts on episode 3. The Acolyte, episode 3. Is this the worst episode so far? As you know, I've been trying to be as positive as I can about the Acolyte, but even I've had to grit my teeth and fake a smile through this episode.
Smile, 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 smile.
This whole episode takes place 16 years before the previous episodes, and we see the twins in a forest where May uses her powers to torture an insect.
Stop!
Okay, I'm going to hit the pause button right here and let you know that this is kind of a metaphor for the entire episode. We already know that May is the evil one, but instead of letting us piece that information together from the obvious information bombs in the first 2 episodes, we have to be reminded again, in case we're stupid.
I'm so stupid, Dad.
I don't mind them revealing May's always been evil rather than turned later, but this scene doesn't really add anything to the story and isn't particularly interesting.
Boring.
As we go through the episode, we discover that the whole commune is made up of women and that the twins were born of 2 women.
I carried them. I created them.
The commune continually speak as if they're reading pages from the first draft of a fan-fiction Dungeons & Dragons novel.
I did not bring the girls into this world so we could lose them to a bunch of deranged monks.
And then they proceed to get together to chant in only what can be one of the most embarrassing things I've seen on TV since Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor Who gyrated to Kylie Minogue in a way that wouldn't have looked out of place at a Harvey Weinstein party.
Yes, yes.
This scene feels like someone went to a yoga chanting retreat in the Himalayas where they ate nothing but shiitake mushrooms and dust for a month and thought, I love that, let's stick it in an episode of Star Wars TV show.
Power of 1, the power of 2, the power of many.
Look, I know it took a lot of setting up, designing, filming and editing, but seriously, somebody should have taken one look at that scene, cut it and shoved it on the DVD second disc.
The DVD with 12 hours of extra footage.
I have one positive thing to say about that scene, is that I love it in a kind of weird and outside the music way. It reminds me of Yoko Ono destroying a Chuck Berry and John Lennon duet. Not that I am comparing the Acolyte to those 2 rock and pop legends, it's just that this god-awful chanting didn't make me angry and cringe. I laughed and enjoyed it in an extremely and unhealthy way, in the same way as I enjoyed Yoko Ono ruining the rock legends duet. Now, let's talk about the thread. So, as far as I can see, the thread is the same as the Force, just with a stupid name and a stupid metaphor.
Pull the thread. Change everything. It ties you to your destiny. It binds you.
I don't think so.
Personally, I think they missed a trick and could have had a wonderful nod to my heroes, Ed Wood Jr. and Bela Lugosi, from their amazing film Glenn or Glenda. So, they do the ceremony to turn the twins into witches. Some Jedis turn up and want to test the children to see if they're Jedis. Then, if they are Jedis and want to be Jedis, the Jedis take them away from their parents. And they never see their parents again. So effectively, the Jedis are child snatchers. It's obvious in The Phantom Menace that children are taken away from an early age for training, but the implications of Anakin possibly not seeing his mother was based on them both being slaves. Anakin being freed and his mother still being a slave was actually an issue. They even have this exchange.
Will I ever see you again?
What does your heart tell you?
I hope so. Yes.
So, they test the children, find that the one of them is Jedi, but not the other one because the other one lied, and she wants to become a Jedi, but the other one doesn't want to become a Jedi, so the one that doesn't want to become a Jedi sets fire to the stone castle, which catches fire and burns, with the same consistency of dried wood.
You gotta be kidding me!
The fire causes an explosion.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off!
All of the witches die. One of the twins falls into a fiery pit. The Jedi take the other child away, and shock horror, we find out the other twin is still alive. That we already knew was going to happen because we've seen that she's alive and well previous in the 2 episodes before, which was 16 years later, so it was kind of pointless to have this reveal. Going back to my original question, is this the worst episode so far? Oh yes, this is absolute trash. Even Lee Jung-jae couldn't save this one. It was just an utterly ridiculous plot. The dialogue is atrocious, the acting is wooden, and the child-stealing Jedis just shows the people who made this have absolutely no knowledge, no respect for Star Wars, and they clearly hate Star Wars fans.
Yes, yes.
Comparing episode 3 of The Acolyte to The Empire Strikes Back, which is what I actually consider to be the best of Star Wars, is like comparing Yoko Ono to Chuck Berry. I'll try to be back for episode 4, but I'm not sure I can handle much more. In the meantime, I think I'll unwind with a bit of Yoko Ono. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 4 of The Acolyte, and I've got to ask, is this the most boring episode so far? Let's dive in and find out. Now, before we get going, I want to make something clear. I'm trying to be as fair as possible with these reviews. There are things I genuinely enjoy about the show, the set designs are usually on point, and despite some complaints about Lee Jung-jae's accent being hard to understand, I personally think his performance has been rock solid, and I like Pip. Pip is awesome.
Isn't he amazing?
Now, you may be wondering why I'm bothering to continue if I'm not enjoying it that much. Well, what can I say? As a geek, I feel the urge to stick with the series, especially since it's part of a larger franchise. I wouldn't want to miss out on something further down the line, right? So, let's get into another cracking episode of The Acolyte. Why do I do this to myself?
Well, that's because you're an idiot.
This episode kicks off on the planet Kofar with a scene that quite frankly looks like it's straight out of a low-budget sitcom. The usual decent sets fall flat here, looking plastic and unrealistic, which doesn't exactly set the tone for an epic adventure. The Jedi Wookiee cut up some meat and there's a close-up of a symbol that is the same on May's head. Next, we see a bearded Jedi teaching kids how to fight with sticks, and then we're smacked in the face with a clunky and sudden romantic interlude between Osha and Lon. That just doesn't make sense.
It makes no sense at all!
Seriously, these two have barely shown any screen time together, and now we're supposed to believe there's something between them? Unless it somehow plays out into a bigger plot point later, it feels like they're just forcing a message. Ooh, I wonder what that message could be.
This is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars
I mean, you must be curious after all this time.
May and Kimar land on Kofar. I'm sure there's a clunky plot line for Kimar to be there, but if I was on a jungle planet and needed advice and a guide, I'd hardly take the drunk stoner who dodgedly acquired someone's shop.
Is it heavy stuff, man? Will it blow me away?
Anyway, back to Croissant. And they discuss that May must have been trained by a Jedi, and I suppose we're supposed to be wondering who this is. Look, as it takes place 100 years before A New Hope, I can only think it's Yoda. In fact, the only character I can think of that anybody could possibly be in this show is possibly Yoda. Back to May and Kimar. Now, I'm not sure if Sternberg's terrible acting is helping, but Manny Jacinto is becoming someone I'm actually enjoying to watch. Yet she has the skills to make his parts entertaining, and look at this scene. It goes from being painful to actually watchable.
Can't believe my sister Jedi scum. What was she like when you spoke to her?
She seemed in over her head.
Let's be frank here. Amanda Sternberg can't act.
And you can't sing.
I'm going viral on Twitter again. Open up the news.
You can't dance.
When she's playing May and Osha, she makes no effort to differentiate between the two characters. May and Osha are twins, sure, but one's supposed to be good, the other's supposed to be evil. Yet they're both portrayed with the same flat, boring tone. I mean, it's actually quite hard to tell them apart unless you're paying close attention to their names and the outfits.
Can't believe my sister Jedi scum. Someone must find May before she does any more harm.
Compare that to Lee Jung-jae, who, despite English being his second language and only having 3 months to learn English, he actually delivers his lines with much more depth and nuance.
Let's move. It'll be dark soon.
So, Lee asks Osha to join him on his mission, spinning some flimsy excuse about needing to connect with May, but like so much of this show, it's just another plot device to keep her from wandering off, despite the fact that she said that she was leaving about 3 minutes ago.
I came to say goodbye.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
They head off on their mission, and what follows is a series of chats and exchanges that honestly don't really add up to much to this story. It feels like filler. I mean, it's like they didn't have enough material to stretch across 8 episodes, so they just padded the runtimes with scenes that should have actually just been cut. And the humour. Oh man, this feels so forced, it falls flat more often than not. Case in point is this one, the "we need a tracker just to track our tracker" line.
I swear we need a tracker just to track our tracker.
Oh, is that supposed to be funny?
There's a whole confusing plot line with May and Kimir where they go on about not using a weapon to kill a Jedi, then out of nowhere, May decides that she's not going to continue with the mission and plans to hand herself into the Jedi because she's discovered that her sister's alive. But did she really need to go through the whole trouble of setting a trap and hanging Kimir upside down when she could have just told him? And also, she just left him there just to be eaten by wolves or a bear or whatever creatures are on this planet. Then, as if by chance, May stumbles upon the Wookiee Jedi's hut and finds him dead. But instead of following through on her plan to surrender, she decides to stay hidden and incriminates herself for a crime she didn't even commit.
Well, that was a stupid idea.
The other Jedis gather around the Wookiee's hut, demanding that May comes out, but instead a mysterious person shows up with a dodgy mask, whips out a red Sith lightsaber, and uses his powers to shove them all backwards.
Run! Okay, that was good. That was good.
Now, I'm guessing the reveal here was the red lightsaber. That was supposed to be a big moment, but you know, come on, we already know this guy's a villain, so is it really that shocking? No. But that's what this show does. You know, it builds up to these incredibly underwhelming reveals and endings. Like last week's big twist with May being live is a case in point. So let's go back to the question. This is the most boring episode so far. Yes, it is. I mean, it's not the worst. Episode 3 still holds that title.
Power 1, the power of 2, the power of many.
Power my ass.
But this one definitely drags. As usual, the dialogue is clunky, the scenes don't advance the plot or build the world in any meaningful way, and let's be real, nothing really happens much until the very last scene. It's just a lot of talking and walking with very little payoff.
Pretty boring, actually.
So, what were the high points? Well, Kimir and Lee were solid, and the last few seconds were decent when he pushes him away with his Jedi powers. And Pip was good. I like Pip.
Pip?
But hey, maybe there's hope for something exciting around the corner. Stay tuned! Let's find out where this journey takes us. Did you enjoy anything in this episode? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.